Okay, I'll give you 2 seconds. We're not recording right now. Don't worry. We're not.
You're lying to me. I just saw the thing that said record.
We're
Ron,
back.
it's been like 17 weeks since
I know.
Since you've been around.
I know. Hey, it feels good to be back. We've got a lot of catching up to do with the fine folks here in YouTube Landia. Well, I know I do. I've been
Landia, I like that.
Yeah, I've been kind of MIA, but you've been cranking out a ton of videos, which is really awesome.
Hey,
you've been having a lot of fun.
That's what we do over here, the Cheap Audio Man.
LLC Incorporated.
Yeah.
Enterprises. Yeah.
Low production value, high volume.
That's it. We crank them out.
Did you ever see the thing on Saturday Night Live? You remember when they used to do commercials on Saturday Night Live? Like fake commercials? Yeah,
like fake commercials. Yeah.
And Phil Hartman's talking about they have a business and it's called We Make Change. And they're like, some people ask us how we make a problem. So if you give us $1, we can give you 4 quarters. We can give you 10 dimes or 20 nickels. That's what we do. We make change.
We make change.
People are like, sometimes people ask how we make a profit. Volume.
A lot.
But you can't make a profit because you're just changing money. I thought it was funny. Obviously.
It is? No, it is
obviously
funny.
People don't think it's funny.
I thought it was pretty funny. It's clever. Good old Phil Hartman.
Good. So were you like taking a break like at a hospital because you were tired, which means you actually had a mental break and then you had to go away for a while and like take baths and get medicated, and then you're like, okay, now I can interact with society again, and then you came out? Or did you do something else?
I haven't showered in a month, so that that part didn't happen, but the rest of it is pretty accurate.
I could tell last week.
You son of a gun.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Hey, so I went to Texas and I met Randy for the very first time. We did a video that I don't think I'm going to release. We're going to talk about it today.
Fabulous. It's awesome.
Yeah. So let me back up and give some context as to my current mental state that I'm in right now. I've been in a bit of a slump since we've been back from Texas in terms of I feel like I am about to climb Mount Everest and I have to do it in about a month. And that is a lot. I have a ton of pending projects that I need to hustle and knock out. And Randy knows this, and this is going to be the announcement. And the reason why is because we are moving to Texas, and we're going to be doing this in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, you're going to be living with us.
I'm going to be living
5 people in a closet, in our hall closet. And what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? We're going to have a great time. So there's a lot of logistics that need to be sorted out. And part of that is a lot of moving pieces. And when I started working on the video that you and I did, there were some variables that were out of our control at that moment that as I'm editing it and working on it, I'm like, this is going to be a time soak to get this done. Yeah. And instead of doing that, why wouldn't we just talk about Texas and just make it clean? And then I'm not having to deal with those variables. Now, those variables are
a lot of people making hot pockets.
We had a lot of noise in the room, and it was my fault that I didn't think about audio. Here I am, an audiophile, and I didn't think about that as a possibility. So I brought the Newman KU100 dummy head, and it picked up all of the noise, and we were trying to have a conversation, and there was just a lot going on. Kids running around screaming, and things going on in the kitchen.
I don't know why you don't laugh at my hot pockets.
It's pretty funny.
It's not that funny, is it?
It was
funny at the time.
It was funny at the time. Yeah. No. People were, I'm
trying to milk the hot pockets for a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Jim
Apparently,
Gaffigan.
I should just kind of move on from it.
Hot pockets.
Jim Gaffigan has a hot pocket. I'm uploading a video as we speak, so Don't pay any attention. It's going to take 2 seconds.
Hold on a second. Do you not know that's where the joke is from? Have you not seen Jim Gaffigan do Hot Pockets?
No.
I thought that's why you keep bringing it up all the time, is because of Jim Gaffigan.
No, I bring it up because it sounded like whenever there's a lot of beeping going on, that means we were all making Hot Pockets in college. Like one after the other. Hot Pocket after Hot Pocket.
Randy, tonight you're going to snuggle up next to Mrs. Messiman, that's how I say your last name. I don't even know. I don't even know your name. Well, and you're going to watch Jim Gaffigan, his comedies, and you're going to die laughing because he talks about food all the time and he talks about making Hot Pockets. Hot Pockets.
Well, now I just feel like I ripped somebody off for a joke.
You did.
I didn't. I've never seen Jim. I mean, I don't even know what Jim Gaffigan looks like. I think he's got like red hair and he's a little portly.
No.
Okay. Is he the guy that takes his shirt off?
Kind of balding. Broad shoulders, little heavyweight. He's just packing on some pounds because he's a lot of Hot Pockets. He could be your brother. I mean.
Thanks. I appreciate that. One of my patrons, if he's watching this, Alex, if you're watching this, it's the funniest thing ever. So he's I don't know, he's Latin, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah.
And apparently his buddies are big on nicknames. And so his whole life he's just been known as El Gordo, which is Spanish for the fat. And I just get it. And I just get such a kick out of that. I'm like, that is so mean. People, your buddies are just calling you, hey, the fat. But he said there's a little bit lost in translation. But I get a kick out of that. I've been saying it over and over again, so he's probably sick of hearing it. Alex, if you're watching, what up, Gordo?
What's up, Gordo? All right. So let's get started. Texas. I came to Texas. I stayed with Danny Ritchie of GR Research. It's the second time being out there. Hung out with him. We had a great time. And Randy was nice enough to drive from Fort Worth to Danny's house to hang out with us. That was very kind. I appreciate that very much, bro. And it was the first time. Twice. Yeah, you did it twice. And
we were able. Buddy. I wanted to meet you, bro.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great. And it was exactly as you would imagine it. Randy pulled up, got out of his car, and then it was like a slow motion, us running to each other and embracing. It was great. It was really cool to meet you, and you did not disappoint at all.
It can be a little intense in person.
A little bit. This intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So we met and we did some listening impressions. We listened to a couple of different speakers that Danny had set up in his listening room. You listened to some Open Baffle stuff, the In Extremes. We listened to the Encores. We listened to the NX Studios, and we had a great time.
Mm-hmm. Good times. Lots of cool speakers.
So, all this to say, and Texas has been something that has actually been on our mind for quite a while. That's Sarah and I. We've actually considered moving to Texas a couple of different times. And with where we're at right now in our lives, with the freedom to be able to move, and with the housing in Arizona looking a little bit grim right now, and rentals skyrocketing, and with the owners of this home letting us know that this will probably be our last year here, we're sitting here going, now would probably be the best time to consider making a move. And the house that we are going to be moving into, it's going to be twice the size of the house that we have right now. And it's going to be $400 a month cheaper than what we're paying right now. It's going to be a bit rural. We're going to be farmers, I think, is what we're going to be doing. So
no, it's going to be awesome, bro.
It's going to be awesome. And we're really excited. There's, a lot of potential in the house for, you know, a studio, not a corner of a bedroom, but an actual studio to record videos in, which will be fantastic. There's a really big living room that will work great for a listening room. And there's rooms for each kid. So it's like we couldn't be happier with this transition. So
would you say that stuff is just kind of like falling into place, or
it
like,
is.
okay,
It is.
cool.
Yeah, I would say that everything that we hoped this house would be and the location would be, it is far better than what we could have ever dreamed of. And Sarah and I,
why now? Is just so the timing just like perfect or something?
I think so. I think the timing is right. You know, I mean, our lease for this house is going to be coming up in just a few months anyways. And right now we're only paying month to month. So we're not under any kind of legal obligation to stay here. We can leave. And so I think it's just time. I think it's time. And I will say this, and I don't want to make this too mushy or sentimental, but you are a big reason as to why I want to get closer to Randy. And of all of the guys that I have met on YouTube in terms of clicking with somebody and developing like a sincere friendship, you're number one on that list. And
that's nice.
Yeah, and I can definitely see
Feelings mutual, buddy.
Yeah, I can see us working together quite often and helping each other grow and learn. I've learned a lot from you, and I think that you've learned, you know, a couple of things from me, and I like that exchange. I think that we learn a lot from each other, and I want to see that friendship blossom and grow and, you know, see where it goes.
I'll tell you, you're the only friend I have right now, because normally when people get to know me, they block me on their telephone and stuff like that. So good luck. We're going to see how it turns out. I'm glad you're going to be moving close to me.
Yeah. We're excited, dude.
I'm just kidding, man. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So, as a quick transition to keep this somewhat entertaining for our listeners, there's been something on my mind that I want to talk about.
Oh, boy.
I want to talk about
Amway?
DIY. I want to talk about DIY. You did, I think, we were driving back from Texas, and I told you your video on why do it yourself. Let's just do
why
a broadband.
DIY. That's a fun little title.
It is. I got to say, man, I mean, to give you props, it is the best video on YouTube that clearly explains the benefit as to why DIY. Why do you do it? What are the main reasons why somebody would get into that? And I thought it is a masterclass video as far as I'm concerned. It's the best video I've ever seen about do it yourself.
Well, I'll take the compliment, man.
Cheers to you, buddy.
Thanks, bro. I mean, it's kind of easy. I mean, I'll tell you, it's not as hard to get like the talking points on a lot of my videos, because that's how I feel. It's very sincere, and that's what I've come to as far as my opinion. And I've just been lucky enough that my opinion has matched up with some other folks, and some viewers too. So that video came very natural to me. And the funny thing about that video is I did not write one note. It was, I turned on the camera, I had three or four talking points, and that was it. Yeah. And I just spoke.
Stream of consciousness. It was great, dude. It was amazing. Thank you. I was blown away by what a great job you did of just laying the gauntlet down. Just like this is all the main points that I wish I could articulate in a video. And I don't think that I could do as good of a job as you did. I think that's now the video that I would say go and watch if you want to know the reason why do it yourself is such a cool idea or concept to consider.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. I'm not trying to take anything away from factory speakers.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah,
they're awesome. They're incredible. But there's something about, number one, the end product that you get, but also the journey to get to the end product.
Yeah.
And that journey can be treacherous. You know, there is the chances of messing up an enclosure, messing up a crossover, sticking a screwdriver through a driver.
That's fun.
Screwdriver's just a driver. You get that? So there's risks involved. I mean, there's
Yeah.
risks involved in getting a factory speaker. You may get that out and it's dead on arrival or whatever. So I would say there's more risks involved with a DIY speaker. But some of those can be mitigated. But I personally, I take some self-satisfaction in being able to put something up on a stand and turning it on and enjoying it, and know that I had a part in that. I think it's just cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way that you do. There's something to be said about when you make it yourself and you are there from beginning to end. You've, built something with your own two hands. There is a point of pride that when you're done, you're like, I made that. That is really cool. Or I assembled it. Just to
we get
just to be
careful
safe.
with semantics. I also think I've always been the type of person that, yes, I learn from a book or whatever, but I don't really start learning until I get my hands dirty or whatever you want to call it, or burnt with a soldering iron or glued with wood glue. So for me, and I'd built a few speakers before I ever even started the channel. Yeah. So it's always been appealing to me to just have some fun with it, figure it out. And it was a big learning process for me, because not only did I learn, okay, this is what a crossover is. Okay, this is what a second order high pass is. This is what a Linkwitz Riley or Butterworth or something like that. This is what happens when you switch polarity. And I got into some computer programs like XSIM and not WinISD. Anyway, there's another one for enclosure building and modeling and things like that. I started playing around with it. And so to me, it's always just been fascinating. And it's fascinating how you can change a component and it can affect everything. And it's a balancing act, right? You change something here and it's going to change something here. So it's a fine balance. And personally, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. It's just fun. I like that type of thing.
Do you feel that as you've jumped more into like the do-it-yourself stuff, you've been enjoying the CSS Audio Crichton 1? What is
so
it?
There's two. There's one TD version and then one TDX. And the one TDX has a different tweeter and a different crossover.
Different tweeter, different network. Yeah. Okay. And then obviously, as well as the Encores, a question that I wanted to ask you is, as you've kind of been playing around with these, and since everything is exposed, the parts that are going into, these projects. One of the conversations that we have had is, you feel that there is a clear difference in parts at this point. Yeah. You know what's tucked inside production speakers. Obviously, there's good reasons for that, because they have targets that they need to hit, and there's only so much that they can spend on, fancy caps and inductors and things of that nature.
And
enclosures, bracing, all of it. Everything is literally down to the penny, but
and not only that, you have multiple layers of distribution that they're going through for a traditionally distributed product.
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting when it comes to do it yourself and, completed speakers. I've always been in this kind of awkward position for the longest time. And I think that walking through this with you has helped me to realize, like, clear as day, it's very difficult to compare the two. You almost can't. It is a truly different market altogether. And you talk about that in your video, and I'm going to link that video, guys. You need to watch it because it's brilliant. But nonetheless, when I was at Danny's and listening, even by myself, and I think that was probably some of the more important moments for me on the trip, where I was just trying to hear some of the subtle differences going from like a standard Encore to an upgraded Encore. But there is, for me, it's no longer a question. It's no longer, are you sure? Are you positive. Yes, I'm positive that parts do make a difference. There is no debate for me any longer. How do you feel about it?
I feel the same way. And I know where this is going, because it seems to be that there's two camps.
Yeah.
There's the camp that, okay, yes, quality of wiring makes a difference, different type of capacitor types, inductor types, resistor types make a difference. And then there's the other camp that say, no, it doesn't make a difference. If it measures the same, it should sound the same. And I mean, I would argue that one thing that I brought up in the video was nobody was going to argue that a tube, switching out tubes, changes the sound in a tube amp.
Right.
So why are we arguing that switching out a capacitor isn't going to sound different either? And then I'll take that a step further. So if parts don't matter, then why do people not use just the those tiny little stick capacitors that are like 20 cents a piece, right? So if parts don't matter, why aren't we just doing that? Why aren't companies just using the dirt cheapest, absolutely, to get that circuit to be the same? Because those little tiny stick capacitors, they have tolerances too. So if you can get the tolerance the same way, why don't they use that? Well, there's a reason why they don't use that, because it's the other stuff's better. Electrolytic caps are better. Air core inductors are better. That's why people use them. And then we have to take that a step further. Okay, so now that we understand, and I think that's accepted, right? That air core inductors are probably better. The electrolytic caps are better than those. I don't remember what the little stick caps are. It's the stuff you get in like an electronic set when you're a kid, right?
Right.
To make an LED turn on or whatever. So no one would argue
poly caps as well, like fast caps. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like on tweeter circuits and things like that.
Right. So no one's going to argue that, okay, well, why aren't you just using the 25 cent or the 20 cent capacitors? All right. But then all of a sudden we get to the place where everyone's like, okay, well, but after that, it doesn't matter. But how can you say after that it doesn't matter if it's accepted that we're not using this grade of parts on audio?
Right.
And I probably don't know all the ins and outs of it. But there is a point where somebody has put a line in the sand and says, okay, those parts aren't good for audio. These parts are, and these are the only parts. If you're spending any more than that, then you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
And I think that's a dangerous argument to have, because how do you have that argument when you have a lower tier of products that can do the same thing, but those aren't good, but this is good, but the other stuff isn't good?
Sure.
And I just think that argument holds no water.
I agree. Another argument that, trying to play devil's advocate, another argument that is made about, if you think you are hearing a difference, then the difference that you're actually hearing are slight differences in how the cap measures, right? So
okay, yeah,
just a slight
variability in the capacitor itself,
right? And
so one measures 12.05, the other measures 12.1.
Exactly, right? And I really have a hard time with that argument, and it's taken me a while to figure out why that doesn't sit well with me, and I finally figured it out. That would mean that literally every single production speaker that we have ever bought or will ever buy is going to sound different from the next one.
That's right, because there's inherent variability in those capacitors, those inductors, those resistors, all of it. That's why they have tolerances.
It would mean that if we went to an audio show and the only speaker that was used from room to room are the exact same Unify 2.0s, they're all going to sound different from each other. And you know what? I don't buy that. I really don't. I think that's just a weird argument to make. And to my point, and this is where I really want to express this, with the do-it-yourself market, Danny specifically, and I think that CSS Audio very well might be doing the same thing. Danny gets these parts, right? And then he takes his Clio, literally every single capacitor that ever comes in, he measures it. And then he takes a pen and he writes down the exact value on every single capacitor. This is part of the process of he wants to make sure he knows exactly how it measures. I can promise you, that's not happening at the big companies. Klipsch is not getting in all of their parts, taking them out and measuring every single one. Wharfdale is not measuring every single cap. Andrew is not taking every single capacitor and going, let's make sure this one, and I'm going to write. It's not happening. And so this variable, this sliding variable that we're talking about of differences, it is all over the frickin' map with big companies. There's no way that if we were to take one Unified 2.0 that it's going to measure exactly the same cap for cap as the next one. But I can promise you this, they're going to sound
pretty similar.
They're going to sound. There's no way that anybody would go, there is a clear difference from one to the next. I don't buy it. Not for a second. I don't.
No, I don't buy it either. Parts do make a difference.
They do.
Now, with that said, there's the opposing sides, right?
Sure.
One side says they make a huge difference. Another side say they make no difference. Personally, for me, I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Because I think they do make a difference. Do they make as big of a difference as some people would lead you to believe? I don't know. I would lean. I'm kind of in the middle. And this might open up a can of worms, but I had a guy send me some really expensive interconnects and speaker cables. Okay. With the speaker cables, and to be fair, I didn't spend a ton of time like critically listening. Mm-hmm. With the interconnects, I was doing something else, and suddenly I heard a little bit something extra in a song I'd never heard before. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then I had to think about what I had done differently. And the only thing I had done differently was I add those interconnects. So there was a difference. Was that difference better? Was it worse? I felt that it was better. I've heard differences in DACs before. Yeah. Are those differences better or are they worse? I've heard differences in getting a better power supply. iFi offers this switching power supply. Yeah. I hooked that up and I did hear a difference. It was slight, but again, was it better or was it worse? I don't know. I did hear a difference. Yeah. So again, for my, and n equals 1, right? I'm the only person that I've, tested because it's just me. I've heard differences. Some of those I assign are better. Other times I just say, well, there's a difference. I don't know particularly if it's better or if it's worse.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, your experience matches mine. I agree with you. Where I think that it's important to understand that when we get into cables, interconnects, parts, even parts that we're discussing, we are talking about the subtleties. And I try to hold the line when I talk to my viewers doing live streams, emails, comments. You will always, not sometimes, you will always gain more through stuff that is free. Speaker positioning, moving things around in your room, playing with placement quite a bit. Consider throwing some stuff up on the walls. In my opinion, you will always gain more from that than what you and I are discussing right now. We are talking, this is the icing on top of the icing on the cake. These are very subtle differences. And as I mentioned earlier, there was an evening when Danny was working, he was busy, everybody was out doing stuff. And I put up just a bass kit, kind of a hodgepodge bass kit encore versus one of his hot rod encores. And I wanted to find out for myself, like, what's really I have the perfect way to compare right here. It's just like back and forth. And being honest with you, bro, there were some songs where I was like, I don't think I'm hearing much of a difference at all. I mean, if there is a difference here, I would lose in a blind test. I wouldn't be able to pick it out. But then what I started to notice consistently is that there were some songs where you had stuff higher up, little fine little details, little things popping out, whether it's a bell, whether it's a cymbal, whether it's the decay of a particular note, I started to track and notice that the hot rodded Encore always let that stuff shine. It always brought it kind of front and center. It had a little bit more brilliance, a little bit more detail. The decay would last a little bit longer. And I started noticing consistently that in songs that would give me that kind of information, the hot rodded Encore won every single time. And I was like, yeah, this is where it's at. It's in that upper mid-range and beyond detail, stuff that is really easy for the human ear to detect and hear. We're very sensitive in that 2K region. And I was like, dude, there's stuff going on here that I think that almost anyone going back to back, they would go, there is a difference. Yes, it is subtle, but when I go to bed at night and I'm laying in bed next to Sarah and she's like, what is he thinking about? I'm thinking about, I should have upgraded to the better caps. Damn it. Damn it. Why didn't I do it? So, yeah.
I thought you did get the upgraded one.
I did. I ended up buying an upgraded hot rod Encore.
So I've got it. I haven't installed it yet. I'm waiting on a couple pieces to complete the puzzle. But I think to your point, you know, not only there's stuff that you can do for free, but I think you need to get the basics right, the foundation, like your speakers correct, your amp correct, your DAC correct, and things like that. And this is stuff that people don't need to worry about until they've like built that foundation and they're down the road. And even if they don't, maybe they don't even want to. And the problem is with cables, especially, is I think that there's been enough personal experience and anecdotal evidence of people maybe getting taken advantage of as far as pricing. And there's stories about margins on cables and things like that.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
I think, and I'm not going to say a few bad apples, maybe a lot of bad apples has kind of made that industry kind of almost taboo and pseudoscience-y, right?
Yeah, sure.
But again, I think that the truth lies in the middle. And again, most people, when they pick out speaker cable, they're going to go for the pure copper stranded cable over copper cladded aluminum.
Yeah.
So there's that, like, that is more readily, I'm going to grab the copper. And for me, if something isn't like ridiculously more expensive, I'll buy it just for the insurance. I'll just be like, I'll get this. This is a better one, whatever. I'll just get it. And there's the same gentleman that sent me the cables and the interconnects. He ran and still continues to do it a little bit on the side, a cable company.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, and it was very interesting. He was telling me, hey, I got these cables off of Amazon, and I'll talk about it in one of my videos, the brands and stuff, but I got these off of Amazon and I'm testing them against my cables that I built. And I know how much money I had just in the raw materials. And his point to me was, these are pretty solid at a very affordable price compared to my stuff that was, you know, significantly more expensive.
Yeah, sure.
So I still think there are items out there that are considered to be quality, not considered to be taking advantage of people. And again, they're not significantly more expensive than something, you know, so I'll take the insurance, just, you know, pay a little bit more for an RCA, but I know that it's supposed to be better, or is it better? I don't know, but I'll spend $10 more on a set of RCAs to make sure that, you know, I just have that peace of mind.
Yeah, I think it's valid. I'm picking up what you're putting down, my friend.
Good.
Hey, man. You know what the heresies have taught me?
That Clips Heritage line is awesome.
Yes.
You took a while to say that.
Well, you know, it's interesting, man. I think a lot of people. Would
you rather have the heresies or RP600Ms?
Heresies all day.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I want to read something and then we'll jump into this conversation. So, this is a comment that I got on the heresy video, and it says, "So you raise an interesting philosophical question. The fact that these speakers got you to put aside your analytical self and just enjoy the music, is that not the greater point? Would that not make these speakers what all speakers should aspire to? At the end of the day, music is art, it's emotion. Music isn't science. Not to say that science isn't inadvertently involved in the recording or reproduction of music, but any product that gets you to forget all that, isn't that better? Good to see you back." And this is from Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Andrew Robinson?
Yeah. Yep. And
yeah, guess what? He doesn't comment on my videos. Thanks, Andrew Robinson. You're probably not watching this.
I was going to send this to him and say, hey, you should watch this episode.
I agree with that 100%. And I didn't even know who that was. I was going to be like, yeah, standing ovation.
Yeah, so I replied back to him. I said, you bring up the point. Like, this is the point. And it's interesting that what the heresies have taught me so far is they're not perfect. They're not. And there's some things about them that I could nitpick. And there's some things that...
Hold on. Who are they not perfect for?
Well, I want to... Yes, I think so. They're not perfect. And I even said that in my sound clips with commentaries. I don't think these are the speakers for me. But it's weird. And what I wanted to talk about specifically is they were able to pull me out of the analytical mode. Okay. So I stopped thinking so much and I just started to enjoy the presentation. Now, how can I say that and at the same time say, but they're still not the speaker for me? And what I realized is speakers are kind of tricky in that there will be some songs, genres of music, that they are able to just say, ha ha, got you, Ron, you son of a gun. Try to analyze this. You can't because you're having too much fun. And then on the next song, I'm hearing boxes and I'm hearing some bass that I don't necessarily appreciate or love because I've been spoiled by open baffle offerings where I'm not hearing the coloration of the box, and I like that so much more. And what they've taught me is these really are rock and roll at heart. It's like they're not perfect, but they don't necessarily need to be perfect to enjoy with a lot of freaking music, man. Like they do some things really well. And then some things that I'm just like, take it or leave it. I'm not in love with this.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing for you and me, really, is trying to take our personal bias out of what we personally like.
Yeah.
And I learned that early on because early on I was talking about this speaker is better than this speaker. And that's wrong. That's wrong because ultimately this is a subjective hobby, right? It's just like saying that steak is better than that steak or that ice cream is better than ice cream. How can you say that? You can't because it's subjective. It depends on what the person likes.
Unless it's a ribeye, then it is the best. But let's continue.
Yeah. So thanks. You messed up my...
I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
Well, now I'm thinking about a juicy ribeye.
I'm passionate about steak, and ribeye is the king of all steaks.
Hey, guess what I did yesterday?
Do you know that Andrew Jones orders his filet well done?
And just let him do it. There's the reason why.
What, you put your British salsa on it next? Like, what are you doing?
Listen, I'm not going to give my opinion about how I do a steak, but if people didn't do it that way, the option wouldn't exist. So regardless of how I feel, it exists. That's kind of like certain music. If people didn't consume it and enjoy it, it wouldn't exist.
I threw us off.
It may not be my cup of tea. Anyway, I don't even notice. Speaker biases and me saying this is speaker's better. So early on, and then I was like, that's wrong. That is wrong for me.
Mm-hmm.
If people are watching my channel, I can't say that this speaker is better than the other speaker. I can say this speaker does, in my opinion, this speaker does X, Y, and Z better than the other speaker. I can say that.
Yeah.
And I try to be very careful of when I say this is what I personally prefer, because what I personally prefer is not what other people personally prefer. And we had a Zoom last night, and there's a certain product that I don't care for.
Okay, what is it?
And I think I can't. You want me to say it?
Okay. No. Never mind.
Well, anyway, it was someone took a video of mine, and they chose two products, and they listened to them, and they actually preferred the opposite. And I'm like, that's awesome, because my preferences are not everybody's preferences.
Yeah.
And I've tried to, and I remember you told me this, report what you hear. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
Granted, I think you can kind of read between the lines when I say I'm buying this speaker or the speaker staying here forever. You know, maybe what my preferences are. But I think we collectively can do a disservice to the viewers by overly emphasizing what we particularly like personally.
Yeah.
And you do a great job because you do objective and subjective stuff.
Sure. Well, thank you. No, and it's kind of hard to walk this line. And look, I struggle with this very thing, because let's get this part right. People don't subscribe to Cheap Audio Man because they want to watch a review. They want to hear your take on it. So I don't
think want to see me light my hand on fire.
I've been waiting for that episode, and you have disappointed me that we haven't seen that episode yet. So
it nearly happened.
It nearly happened.
Sennheiser Momentum 3
almost happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people want to hear our perspective. They want to hear our thoughts on it. And so it's okay to share that, but I completely agree with you at the same time that it can't be only about that. And when I celebrated the heresies, I thought to myself, this is going to surprise a lot of folks, because I think a lot of folks might think like Ron hates Klipsch. And no, I don't. No, I don't. There's something about Klipsch or any American legacy product that I want them to show us like the best. And that's might be like American Pride or whatever coming through. It's like, come on, guys, let's show these guys what we can do. And so I hold them to a high standard. And when I sat down and I listened to the heresies, I thought to myself, there are so many things that this speaker is doing that I totally get. I totally get the essence of this heritage line and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do. And, this box coloration, and I was very careful about the way that I walked through it. Some might actually embrace it for what it is. And they might be like, I don't care if that kick drum is a bit thumpy. I don't care if, some of these male vocals, baritones sound a little bit bloomy. Like, I embrace that sound. And so I had to kind of take a step back and say, I can't say that this is a bad thing, even though it's not my preference, because the reality is some might actually appreciate it, embrace it, love it. And then some like me might say, that this is not for me. And that's okay.
Yeah. I kind of like that now I still prefer maybe a neutral speaker, but, and I say it before, and I use Highway to Hell because the bass drum on Highway to Hell is really tight. Yeah. And when I hear a thump, as you said, I'm like, okay, they got a little boost here. And then I follow that up with, and good, because that's where I want the
and
boost.
Good.
And I want a little thickness down there in the male vocals, but that's my personal preference. But totally. I think that carries over to some people that enjoy music. There's a buddy of mine, and by all accounts, he is a very big time audiophile. He likes that sound too. He likes the
Yeah.
V shape. I like a bit of
Yeah.
a U shape. I like a
Yeah.
U shape on the. I kind of like a half a U. I like a U on the bass, and then you can keep the treble flat
Yeah.
and neutral. I just like the. I want to be
Just
punched
a
by a
little.
butcher.
Yeah. The heresies
Right.
can do that, man. I wish that they would dig a little bit lower than what they do. I also noticed, and this was interesting, Randy, is that for those that decide to pull the trigger on heresy, they like everything that I had to say about it, and they're thinking, ooh, I like everything he's saying, but I'm not sure if I want that bass to be as baked as maybe it is. Dude, you get those up off the ground by 12 to 14 inches, you've eliminated the boundary effect from the floor to reinforce that bass. It did the trick. It did the trick. And I'm not saying that, I'm not just pulling that out of my rear end. Like, I actually did some measurements before and after, and sure enough, 100 hertz, like 70 to 100 started to drop. And here's what I didn't expect. The rest of the mid band started to level out. It just became a bit more of a linear speaker. And I was like,
You know who else put them up
oh,
on stands?
Zeos?
Z. Yeah, Zeus
Z.
put them up on stands. Yep. I found that interesting.
So if you're listening and you have the heresies and you feel like the bass is a bit much in that kind of mid bass, I keep saying bass, but it's really mid bass, lift them up off the ground 12 to 14 inches and give it a go and let us know what you think.
I found a clip speaker I really enjoy. It's a
Really?
RP 500M.
Oh yeah? You
I
digging
liked
it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool.
I'm digging it.
That's awesome, man.
I think it's the king of the RP line, personally.
That's great.
I liked
awesome.
it way more than the RP 600M. And I like the RP 600M. It's just interesting. Awesome. Sometimes that 5 1/4 inch driver, I think they have to, or they're trying to compensate for maybe the smaller driver and the way that they do it. And I had the same experience with the ELAC debut B 5.2 versus the 6.2.
Yeah.
I preferred the 5.2 over the 6.2. I prefer the RP 500M over the 600M. And whatever they got going on in there, I like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I got, man. Those were the 3 talking points. I'm moving to Texas. We're going to be out there in June. So this is going to be quick. Like, we're going to wait for Georgia to finish up school. That's important. Say our goodbyes, pack up everything, get out there June timeframe, early June, mid-June. And we talked about do-it-yourself. We talked about subjective enjoyment of loudspeakers and what that means, you know, from the reviewer's perspective. Do you have anything else that you wanted to chat about?
I got a couple of reviews out if people want to check them out. Q Acoustics 3030i. Emotiva. Yeah, I like that. I like the 3030i. It's really high value in my opinion. $400. Kind of sits in a place where not a lot of the other people play. That $400 mark kind of goes between like 400 up to 600. So they're kind of, or from like 300 up to 600 or what. There's not a lot of stuff in that $400 range.
Yeah.
Emotiva.
Smart move, Q Acoustics.
Q. I always feel like I'm saying Q wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Emotiva T2 Plus. Big old brawlers.
Big old brawlers. They're going to get you.
They're going to get you. And
you set those up face forward. Katie bar the door.
I'm telling you, man.
Katie bar the door.
I liked them. And then, SE12. Emotiva SE12 subwoofer review.
Very cool.
Going up.
Man. Very cool. Exciting stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good stuff, man. I'm really excited that you're moving over here. And then I'll have someone that can help me put in a French drain or something in my backyard.
I would love that. That'd be great. I don't know what that is, but I'm excited to find out.
It's for drainage.
Yep. Yep. So can we come and live with you? I figure now's probably a good time to ask because we don't.
I'm cool with it.
Great. You know what we should do? We should surprise your wife because
just walk in with all your bags. Let the kids just start running.
They love surprises. I'll be like, scatter, army, go and conquer. We're here. We're gonna go make some videos. Can you make us some dinner?
Would you mind putting together a meatloaf? No, wait a minute. You know
Oh.
how we have what at Christmas dinner?
Yeah.
Can you whip that up? Like the
Can you do
turkey, the ham, all in. Can you get that going?
And since I'm going to miss Mexican food, can we have some tacos as well for dessert?
Yeah.
Can we? No. Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I don't think that would go over very well.
I think this is going to work really well.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm gonna disagree with that one.
I'll send her an email. It'll be fine. It'll be okay.
I wouldn't
abandon ship, Ron. Don't do it. All right.
I wouldn't recommend it.
All right. I'll think it over. Folks, thank you for joining us on the Ron and Randy's Audio Hour podcast. This podcast is available on all the major platforms, which are listed in the description down below. And,
some of my viewers thought you fired me.
Really?
Yeah, including me. For a long time, I was like, Ron's done with me.
Well, that's impossible because that would make me your boss, and I am not your boss. The truth is, I think you might be my boss.
Negative.
Negative, Ghost Rider. No, man. Had a great time. Great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And leave your comments down below. And we'll see you guys in the next video.